You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marisa Lonic, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Hey, mama friend, Marisa Lonic here, and you are listening to the Mama Work It podcast, episode 1. Yes, this podcast has been a dream of mine for the past year or so, and I am so excited to finally be making it happen. Thank you for listening and being here with me. So first off, who is this podcast really for? Well, if you're a working mom juggling all the things, you, girlfriend, are in the right place. This show is all about slaying the day as a working mom, whether that means setting and achieving big goals and dreams you have for yourself, or just making it through the crazy days of the season you're in. Hopefully with gratitude and grace. I hope you'll join me for all of it. I'm going to be doing solo episodes where I bring you some of my best tips and advice, personal experiences, and stories about being a dreamer, doer, and certified time momager. Yes, that's a thing, at least in my world it is. I'm also going to be interviewing some amazing guests who will talk about practical ways to thrive in this mom life, not just survive, although some days you may feel like that, and that's totally okay. So, like I said, I am so excited to launch this podcast, and in this first episode, I want to tell you a little more about me. I want to set the tone for this podcast and what it's going to be, or at least what I think it's going to be, and help you better understand if you're in the right place. No hard feelings if you're not. Not everyone was meant to be my podcast bestie. Okay, so here we go. A little about me. Well, as the name of this podcast suggests, I am a working mama. I am an entrepreneur and the founder of Mama Work It, where I help busy moms with big dreams and no time to achieve their goals and slay their days. I've worked in the corporate space for the past 14 years in areas of learning and development, sales and marketing, and customer experience. Prior to that, I was an educator, a high school teacher, and an adjunct professor at the university level. And prior to that, I held a number of odd jobs that all developed me in some way, shape, or form, while I was also a full-time student. Some of these professional endeavors included being a waitress, a babysitter, a pizza counter worker, a fitness instructor, an English tutor, an Italian tutor, a retail associate, and the list goes on. I have been a hustler, working it since age 12. I am also a wife of 11 years. I met my husband Anthony when I was 21 years old at The Sports Bar. Yes, the name of the bar was literally The Sports Bar. It was a college bar in my college town, and I was in my last semester of undergrad. We were on very different paths in our lives at the time and did not date right away. Nearly a year later, after I'd moved to Europe and returned home, we reconnected and have been together ever since. Probably should have led with this, but of course I am a mom as well. I have 4 boys, ages 7, 3, and 1 at the time I'm recording this. Never in my life did I think I'd be a boy mom and to 4 boys. I always wanted a large family, and the 4 kids part is not that weird from what I'd planned, but 4 boys, I did not think I was cut out for that. I have learned a lot about what raising little boys is like, and I'm learning even more the older they get, especially on the first 2, because honestly, aren't your oldest basically like your test children, the ones you try things on to see what works? But nonetheless, I love being a mom and I love my tribe of boys here. They are wild and energetic and loud, but my house is filled with lots of excitement and Legos and fun. As you probably also noticed, I am a twin mom. Any other twin moms out there listening? Hell yeah, girl. How shocked were you when you learned that news? I think I nearly fell off that ultrasound table thing when the technician told us that news because I am such a planner and that was not really part of the plan I had envisioned. But yes, I'm a twin mom of identical twin boys, my oldest two, and having twins is just so fun. I love the connection those boys have and feel so blessed that I get to be their mom. Besides all of this, I'm Italian American. Yes, I grew up on Long Island in New York, but also in Bari, Italy, where my dad is from and his siblings still live. As you can hear, though, I don't really talk like a Long Islander anymore. I've spent many years neutralizing my accent. It used to be there hardcore, trust me. I now live in the Bay Area in California and have been here since 2016. I like to cook, bake, and eat. Wow, that sounded super food obsessed. I mean, I do like all those things, but I swear I like other things besides food and activities involving food. Like running. I recently started running again and I just love it. It has been such a great way to get back in shape after being pregnant 3 times and putting my body through a lot of change in just a handful of years, but also for my mind and mental health. Highly recommend it. No matter how out of shape you think you are, trust me, I was so out of shape when I started running, and now I'm running multiple miles at a time. What else? I love being creative, and writing is basically my therapy. Well, writing and a trip to Home Goods sometimes. So you will see blog posts on my website. You will see lots of other fun, creative things that I'm up to on there. Speaking of writing, I'm also an author, and I published my first book in 2019 called Time Momagement: How to Get the Time You Need to Do the Things You Want. So to get this show started, I thought I'd share a quick story from that book and how it came to be. Here it is. Back in 2016, I had just moved to a new city with my husband and 2-year-old twins. I'd gotten a job promotion, and while I was slightly scared of what would happen to my work-life balance in a bigger role with a longer commute in a new city where I hardly knew anyone, I was never one to shy away from an opportunity, let alone a really awesome one. A few months into the gig, while I didn't have regret, I still had some unease about whether or not I was managing my time and my work-life balance well enough. Here's the thing. I wanted to have a successful career. I also wanted to be an awesome mom, a mom who was present. And I wanted to be an appreciative and loving wife. And finally, I wanted to be myself, who liked to have manicured nails and enjoyed spending some time doing retail therapy now and then. Basically, I wanted it all, and I was determined to get it. The truth was, I already had a lot of what I wanted, but I needed to fit it into the new normal. I needed it to fit into my life, to all our lives. Week by week, I started making changes, doing things a bit differently, taking small steps that would eventually have a significant impact on me. Looking back now, I realize this challenge, this life event, this change lit the match for me to become more efficient, more focused, and more capable of having it all, and then some. This wasn't the only time this happened, but it's the one I hold closest to my heart because it presented the biggest triggers to ignite those external and internal changes. During that time, I was also working with a life coach in hopes of figuring out the magic recipe of how I was going to be able to achieve this balance and peace I so desperately wanted. The idea of starting a blog came up. I know, weird. How would a blog help me achieve my goals? Wasn't this just another thing to do? But it was what I needed at the time. It was a creative outlet I could use to gather my thoughts, understand my needs, and inspire others. I started writing regularly. I wrote about anything and everything: parenting, friendship, working, and everything in between. It was awesome, but I was totally directionless. I didn't want to be labeled as anything, not as a mom, a wife, an executive, a woman, nothing. I was petrified to let anyone read it. I wrote a blog about everything I was going through with no clear path of where I was headed, and I wrote as if I had an audience of thousands, even though the only person I allowed to read it was me. Why? I wasn't ready. Looking back and being barely older, I'm always young at heart, and slightly wiser, I realized, are we ever really ready? There's never a perfect time to do anything. Have kids, move, start a blog, tell people about your blog. I'm a firm believer that it all happens for a reason though, so stay with me. Fast forward a bit, just under 2 years to be exact. At the start of every year, I write down the goals that I want to accomplish that year. On January 1st, 2018, I wrote my list just like I had in previous years. On that list, I wrote, publish blog. It was weird. I wasn't really sure why I even wrote it. I hadn't touched the blog since I'd had my third baby the previous July. Bringing in a third kid had created a whole new layer of normalcy in my house, but only after it caused a lot of upheaval. It took about 6 months of exclusively pumping and getting sporadic sleep while still raising 2 other small humans to figure it all out before I could focus on other things. But something told me to write it down anyway. To be honest, it was the first time I'd ever written a goal on that list without full intention of actually doing it. When I wrote my list of annual goals, I was still fresh back at work from maternity leave. I could tell you a lot of flowery language about what the return to work was like, but I'll keep it simple. It fucking sucked. It's not that I didn't like my job. I did. It's not that I'd never gone back to work after maternity leave before. I had. I felt something bigger this time, though. I wanted to be more in control of my time, my schedule, and my energy. I wanted more. I brainstormed a million ideas of a business I could start on my own that would afford me the flexibility and schedule I was yearning for. I had dabbled in photography. Should I do that? Should I become one of those mom-tographers? They seem to be doing okay financially. Those newborn photo shoots are pricey. But when I thought about it, it didn't do it for me. It didn't ignite or excite me. It didn't make me feel like I was tapping into my real talents. And as cliche as this is going to sound, my true calling. Then I thought about the blog that was still sitting there in the back of my mind. There was something to be said for it. Sure, it was kind of a hot mess, but isn't every mom kind of a hot mess, at least sometimes? I'd start there. Ready or not, I did it. In May 2018, I published the blog and finally shouted it out from the social media rooftops. If you want to know what vulnerability feels like, write about yourself and then ask everyone on the internet to read it. It's ridiculously uncomfortable, yet an incredible sense of accomplishment, all mingled into one intense startup experience. I wrote regularly for the next several months. I better defined my story of managing the life of a mom, a working mom specifically, since that was the life I was living. I didn't feel like an expert in anything. I just wanted to share my stories and what had worked for me in hopes it would help other moms and give a voice to a well-deserving community. Women I'd never met started emailing me telling me how much they loved my stories and appreciated my advice. Acquaintances from high school DM'd me how grateful they were for my posts. My following grew and I started making a small dent in the impact I'd intended to create. I still wasn't quite sure of my expertise, but I knew I was helping, and that's what mattered most. Then it happened. My niche, my forte, my calling. I figured out the area I needed to build and focus on. I'd already been doing it to a degree, but now I was going to give it a name, a pedestal, and some real attention. People would ask me constantly, how do you find the time to have a blog, to work full-time, to parent 3 kids, etc., etc., etc.? After hearing this question repeatedly, something finally clicked. I knew what I had to focus on, what would help moms the most. Time. Getting back the time they'd lost when they became moms. Being able to structure their days so that at the end they felt empowered and not defeated. Helping them set attainable goals and offering tangible steps on how to get there. I needed to share this specific message because if I can do what I'm doing, you can do what you want to do too. And so it all clicked together. I became a time momager. I'd always been a self-starter, a planner, and very goal-oriented. These skill sets amplified my abilities to not only have it all, but to be at peace, be happy, and be able to achieve a lot during the busy, challenging, and chaotic time of having young kids. I'm no time goddess. I can't perform time miracles, and I'm also not a total time management weirdo who sticks to her calendar 100% of the time. I just figured out some shit that works, and I want to help my people out. And you, moms, are my people. When I thought of the title for this book, Time Momagement, I was in the shower. I don't know about you, but that is where I often get my best ideas. Maybe it's the hot water. Maybe it's the quietness. Maybe it's the me time. Sad but true, you moms know a hot shower that's longer than 10 minutes feels like a visit to the spa. Anyway, I thought of it and immediately wrote it down when I got out because, well, mom brain. I didn't want to forget it. I thought about this word a lot and how much sense it makes for the concept of managing your time to be a mom's forte and not a man's. Sorry, men, I only bring you into this because I swapped mom for man in the word, as you probably already figured out. Not because I'm a man hater. I'm not. I married one and am raising 3. Back to that title, though. Women, and moms especially, are so damn good at managing things, aren't we? We take care of everyone, everything, and every other person or thing in between. We keep households running, children thriving, significant others satisfied, careers growing, friendships going, and ourselves alive, often making it all look easy. By the way, notice how I said ourselves alive back there? That's totally on purpose. I bet sometimes you feel that's all you do for yourself. You're the last person you think about when it comes to priorities. You're the last thing to take care of on your to-do list. You're the, I'll start that tomorrow, or I'll get to that later. And we all know what happens to that last thing on your list, the least of your priorities. It rarely gets done. That's about to change, Mama. I used to do this all the time. I used to find any excuse to not do something for myself. It's too expensive. It's unnecessary. It's not worth it. It's too indulgent. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later. I'll do it when I get to it. I don't deserve it. Etc., etc., etc. Trust me, I've said it, felt it, and basically could write a book on it, which I did. You're reading it. So listen up. I've been there with you, feeling like you can barely come up for air with every single thing you're doing for every single person in your life. It doesn't feel good. And for me, it usually led to something like this. A build of resentment, which leads to some passive-aggressive or short-circuit behavior, which then portrays itself as a somewhat psychotic woman who is crying about wanting to feel normal again, leading to a slight mental breakdown, followed by a manicure pedicure and short-lived period of time before the vicious cycle would repeat itself. Have you been there? Are you there now? If so, read on. I had to break the cycle and figure out what it would take for me to feel, most days, like I had it together in all areas of my life, including caring for myself. I knew when I deposited all my time into everyone else's bank account, I was broke in all senses of the word. I also knew I was a ridiculously strong woman who had never let the words, "I can't do it," be her reality. Okay, I hope you liked that little section from Time Momagement, and if you want to read more, feel free to check out the whole book. It's available on Amazon, and you can check it out on my website as well. What else? Well, I'm a total goal digger and thrive on setting and achieving goals no matter how impossible they may seem. And I love helping other moms do the same. In fact, like I mentioned earlier, this podcast has been on my list of goals since January 1st, 2020. Yes, it took me over a year to make it happen, but truth be told, I didn't start until just a couple months ago. But what can I say? I'm often fashionably late, so don't hate, just celebrate. Cheers. Okay, here's what I promise to deliver in each and every episode. Number 1, truth. I am going to keep it real as fuck on this podcast. I'm not going to pretend life is always unicorns and rainbows because we all know that's not true. I'm not going to sugarcoat things or always use professional language all the time. So you might not want to listen during carpool or on your Bose surround sound system in your home. I'm going to speak the truth because that is what is going to connect us as women. And that is what is going to help you, help me, help everybody listening. Nobody likes a liar, and I am sure as hell not one. 2, strategy. As a doer, I need to take action, and sometimes, most times, I need steps to actually do that. I want to help you manage your time, develop your plan, and ultimately make shit happen in your life. You want that promotion? Let's talk about how to nail the interview. You want to write a book? Let's outline a process to get you there. You want to eat healthier? Let's give you some recipes and tips for cooking quick and easy meals. No fluff, real deal information. It may not always be easy, but I can promise you this, it is always, always worth it. Number 3, inspiration. Whether motivation is your BFF or not, everyone can use a little or a lot of support here and there. I hope you listen to these episodes and feel inspired to do great things. I hope these conversations get you thinking about an idea that's been buried under the 7 loads of laundry you still need to fold this week. And I hope you realize, if you don't know this already, how capable you are to do all the things you want to do. And finally, number 4, fun. I don't know about you, but I like to have fun. And sometimes I feel like all the responsibilities of my mom life can get the best of me and get in the way of just having some fucking fun. So I'm going to keep it light and just shoot the shit sometimes. Not every minute of every episode is going to be about learning something that you can apply, even though a lot of my content is. Sometimes I'm going to just tell you about our guest's favorite cocktail because why not? Okay, last but not least, Mama Work It podcast episodes will be released every Wednesday. The best way you can help support this podcast and stay in the know is to subscribe. I would so appreciate it as well if you left a review, maybe even today, and preferably 5 stars. I am thrilled to get this party started. Okay, really, I'm just sitting here alone in my office, which, by the way, is in my closet, talking to a microphone. I told you I keep it real. But still, party for one is fine with me. Well, let's get it going, Mama. Here we go with the Mama Work It podcast. You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, Mama.